Utah, give me 2.
Welcome, everyone, to the Palazzo Podcast Prospects Power Hour. I am Ben Chase, Big Gentle Ben on your social medias. I'm with my man Robbie Baseball, Mopar Fest Robbie on Instagram, and he's opening up one probably to calm himself down after a long weekend of travel. It sounds like
pulling on boat motors.
Yeah. Well, at least you said boat motors. All right. But
whoa.
Well, welcome to the show, folks. All right. So
Yeah, what else do you think I'd be doing?
Dude, spit on that thing.
Oh, come on, Ben. Come on.
I'm not a judgmental man. Remember, I was preaching on Sunday, so I can't really get too much into things. All right. So, Robbie, before we get started, this has happened one other time to us. And Adarsh wants to say hello to you.
DJ Adarsh, good evening, my friend. Back to work.
But we have never, or we have only maybe one other time in the, I think, 3 years that I've been a consistent contributor on their show, had a question in queue when we started the podcast. So I'm going to pull up our question here from our man Eddie. Says, hello, Ben, Robbie, and apparently if Chad's watching, he wants Chad involved too. He's in a redraft league, has a chance to make some money, but he needs some help. Any gems coming up in September that he should get?
Well, I mean, that is very organizational based, because you either want the teams that are churning and burning. So you're looking to catch fire with somebody on Oakland, somebody in Colorado, somebody who, if they get hot, they'll just keep playing. Pardon me. Or you're going to look at top prospects who just aren't currently rostered. And I mean, we got a guy who, depending on your league size, you might be able to pick him up who just came up. Now, at bats are always in play with the gentleman that we'll mention.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it as the names come, I think that'll be something that the guys cover really well on the Friday and Sunday shows.
Yep.
Would be guys that they see with a path to playing time. And as well, right now, as soon as you see an injury for player X, whoever that may be, go and look who's been raking at AAA for that team. And if they're on the 40-man, that's when you kind of want to make a quick pounce on a player like that.
So because they're masters of doing these odd things, there's a particular prospect that was moved during the deadline that I think could have some impact down the stretch here. The Rays are a team that would have no issue doing the DFA thing to try and draw a trade. Which, I misspoke. I got an email on this one, on this. I misspoke on our trade deadline thing. You cannot put a guy through waivers trades anymore. You have to go through DFA. If you waive them, their money is just claimed or not. That's it.
Okay, so it's not revocable anymore. Yeah.
But the way you can kind of do, you can't really even do a revocable trade. You put a guy through on DFA. That means you're looking to waive him, but you want a chance to trade. And so if somebody's willing to trade you some things, they might claim him on DFA and then trade you. And so if you have an out of options guy, that's your way to potentially get some return for him. I could see the Rays doing this. And that's why I am interested in a guy like Hunter Biggie as a potential back end of the bullpen sort of guy that could get some saves down the stretch.
I don't know if he was starting or opening on Sunday.
I saw that. Yep. He's up already. So they've already made sure that,
right?
Yeah. And eventually moving him into that back end stuff, I think
which makes Tyler Anderson a good option too. Sorry, Ben. Anderson is not a great starting pitcher for some reason, but if he follows an opener, he's had better statistical luck. Which, of course, that's why he's with the Rays. But it could get Biggie to not be the opener. It could get him, to go to the back end if they want to take out that next arm, like that, whoever that other person is, to make him more impactful. Because they just need to get through the first inning, and they might value his arm when they're looking to secure a victory versus looking to start off without submitting the damage. Because I think Anderson ended up coming in at the end of the first to get him out of a bases loaded jam or something like that. Because I think it was against Toronto. He pitched on Sunday. I'm pretty sure that was the game.
I'm trying to think. You got my brain.
I feel like it was against Barrios on Sunday. So,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, something like that would be. But
that's
good. So,
really probably the biggest guy I can think of right now, just because, unfortunately, we're still a month away from September, and a lot of stuff can happen in between now and then. I'm really thinking that someone like Davison De Los Santos is going to get run through the end of the season. Andre Chaparro is another guy that was moved that I think he should probably get some run with the Nationals at third base. But right now they have other guys playing those. So, and Eddie's giving us a little bit of clarification.
Yeah. Okay. So your league deep. You've got 504 players within. So he's just saying he's on an 18-team league, 13 hitters, 9 pitchers, 6 bench spots, 504 of the total rosters. So yeah, really like deep league special. So basically my roster in all my 30-team leagues where I've sold off and I'm still trying to be competitive, which again brings up the Tyler Anderson thing. So I'll very quickly hop on Fantrax, the not yet a sponsor of this lovely podcast thing. And you're going to look for forgotten guys who aren't necessarily, I mean, like major league veterans, like who have had terrible starts to the year. Luke Raley is a guy with Seattle who's still getting at bats and has been okay, good, not great. She-Man with Cleveland has kind of been soured on by people because he's in a straight platoon now with Rocchio. And the interesting thing is if you get either guy, they both seem to be okay. So depending on your ideal scenario, as far as power goes, things like that. Abraham Toro's obviously not healthy. He's not come back strong from his injury that sent him to the IL for, I think, 3 weeks. So he's not a great option. What's the Michael Stefanik with the Angels he's still up, right? Yeah, he's getting time. I just looked over the weekend. Yeah, he started 3 out of 4 days for them. So you're looking to catch fire with somebody like that. And then on the pitching side, Davis Martin with the White Sox, he's going to start the rest of the year. He's coming back from Tommy John surgery, and he is absolutely a flyer of an arm. I thought about him for the Jesus Take the Wheel pick, which we're returning to tonight, but I didn't want to go that desperate. Not that when you know my guy. The next guy up, you're looking at flyer on Jake Woodford with the Pirates, who looks like he'll get another turn in the rotation. You always go to Colorado when you're trying to figure out or piece something together. Tanner Gordon had a good start. He might get another one, but that's flyer, streamer. And then, like I said, Tyler Anderson is also an interesting option. And then might Jesus Take the Wheel pick too.
Tyler, you've said it a few times. I just want to make sure you're saying the right guy. Tyler Alexander is who I think you're talking about.
Yeah, the SPRP for Tampa Bay.
You were saying Tyler Anderson, who's the Angels
I'm
pitcher,
sorry.
and I'm like, did I miss something? Okay, no, but
Alexander.
The thing, I guess I had missed that Biggie opened yesterday against the Astros. Which, by the way, if you didn't notice the Houston pitching lines all weekend, Tampa Bay is a tremendous lineup to stream against. Because Kikuchi had 11 strikeouts, Arrighetti had 12 strikeouts. These guys, they kind of racked them up.
Yeah, Spencer went off. I was happy with that. Even though I think he took the loss.
You took the loss, yeah.
But man, he pitched very well.
Yeah. But Biggie did open that game. But what I guess I was surprised by, he finished the game against Kikuchi on Friday. And so that was why I was like, wait, he already pitched again? But yes, he did. He opened up and gave up a hit and 2 walks before Alexander came in and then finished it out and pitched the next 4. So, but anyway, so that's what we can give right now, just to give you an idea. Apparently Chad thinks that we're talking about the wrong guys.
I'm just letting Chad know that if you look at the second part, AA players are not on the periphery for us. So that's why we're getting Eddie's question through right now. And then Chad saying that those are some weird AA guys, but that's because they're not AA guys.
Yeah.
So,
hey, we didn't say hi to Mike. Hi, Mike VA. Say hi to Mike.
Evening, Mike. So for news, Ben, let's transition into that now. We've got What do we got here? Our Cheapers Creepers. We're already 10 minutes into this bad boy.
Good Lord.
So far, only 4 guys, not even notables who have not yet signed in the first 10 rounds of the MLB draft, the Rule 4 draft, if you want to get technical with its name. We will dive into that once it's an official. They're not coming with anybody else. So
it's past
has
the
it
deadline.
now been the time?
Yep.
Okay.
But 3 of them are first 3 rounds guys, 2 high schoolers and 1 college guy. And I think we knew the college guy basically from the day he was drafted. Ryan Prager of Texas A&M announced that he was going back right away. But the Mets kind of made a pick in the 9th round that decided not to sign and decided to go back to school, and they don't get any compensation for that. So this is JJ Cooper of Baseball America was saying this is it's tied for the most of the slot era in the first 10 rounds to have 4 that did not sign. That tells you how rare it is to have somebody not sign in the first 10 rounds. That 4 is a huge deal. So, but tomorrow, big news. Our man Erod is coming back for Arizona. Are we all excited?
Sure.
I was just going to say, I could tell by the lack of enthusiasm exactly how excited you are.
Yeah, it's not my favorite thing. I mean, Arizona's Arizona, and I don't see him being a league winner. As there's Drew Rasmussen, like that's the league winner who I'm waiting to see. Come back and throw some important innings. Depending on what the Cubs want to do with Hayden Wesneski when he returns, that's another guy that I would be interested to see. And beyond that, it's just going to have to be like kind of trending guys, I'm going to say, from there up. So, but like, I don't know, Ben, are you pumped up to see Erod go back?
Is
this just news for the sake of news here?
I mean, the biggest reason it's news is simply because there's a lot of guys who are kind of quad A guys right now. And I mean, Yolber Diaz and Christian Mena, those type of guys that have been getting shots in that Diamondbacks rotation. And as those guys get healthy and they still think that they're in it, those chances aren't going to be there anymore. So if you've been relying on Yolber Diaz, you've been relying on guys like that, might be a good time to look elsewhere.
Because those innings pitched are going to be gone temporarily. So Danny Jansen was traded from Toronto, and the deal has gotten weird. It scared me with Connor Wong and thinking they're going to take playing time away from him. Hasn't really been the case though, Ben.
No, but I guess why I put the weirdness on here, Danny Jansen has an opportunity, and this is something we've not had in fantasy either. He has an opportunity later this month to play for both teams in a single game.
Oh, yeah.
So he will
honestly, who cares? But
well, yes, it's going to be very interesting just because he didn't switch leagues or anything, but it's going to be really interesting to see how they run that out the rest of the way. Or the rest of the game, just because there's a little bit of debate as to whether Jansen can just slide into that game because Reese McGuire was catching and he's no longer on the roster. So they need someone to catch, but do you put Wong in that spot? Anyway, but he very well could end up playing for both teams in one game because the game got discontinued and it's now being recontinued in April or in August. And so Jansen was actually at the plate when the game was discontinued, if I remember correct. So whoever picks up from him is going to pick up with a strike on him, I believe.
Yeah. However I read it. Yeah. Basically, Jansen was the batter of record. So someone's going to obviously be taking his spot, and then it's going to kill a spot for the Jays, I guess. I don't know how that's all going to work out. And then he's got the opportunity to be on the other side. Now it's baseball things, right? It's just one of those classic baseball things, but really it's not fun and exciting.
No, it's not fun. No.
And we've had a couple of those that we've been excited about. Kobe Mayo made his long anticipated debut after his 3rd or 4th round pick in the 2020 draft. He was a high school big bodied fella and he's done quite well for himself. I believe MLB.com had him ranked at 15 just before his official call-up. I mean, honestly, it can't be any worse than Nacho Alvarez. So, I mean, he any chance I get, Ben, any chance I get.
But in all seriousness, it basically just slots in for them. They had Jordan Westberg. Westberg goes down with the season-ending injury. They call up Mayo. I mean, it just kind of fits perfect for that organization. Obviously, the other guy called up for that organization was Jackson Holliday. I think we knew about that already, our last show. But that's it'll be interesting to see them having Mayo, Gunnar, and Holliday in the infield all together. That'll be I'm curious to watch that a time or two, just because that's some young excitement for that organization, not to mention Adley behind the plate. And if that happens to be a day that you put Keston Hierstead at first base, that's a really fun young infield.
That's one where your scouting director just looks at the starting lineup and then sends a quick email to the president about how he wants to work on evaluating employees this offseason. I noticed you had an infield of all players I've drafted. The only comeback would be, who's on the mound? But outside of that,
that's true. Unfortunately, of course, if it was a Grayson Rodriguez day, you could also have that.
I mean, that's now you're going back even for, I forget what year he was, 17, 18. But anyway, it's good to see Mayo up. Pedro Leon's the other guy who we had kind of talked about. It kind of appeared like he had topped out at AA before the season started, but he hasn't, which is great. He found another gear, which at 26, I mean, he needed to. So now he's up, and again, we're going to have to play the unfortunate waiting game with Houston. What is the situation going to be over the course of a 7-day period with 6 games? Where are they going to slot him in? How seriously are they looking at Pedro Leon for rest of season and career versus filling a bench spot? And I'm always afraid they're filling a bench spot with an outfield guy, and they preach on defense, and that's not his strong suit. So I don't know what we're going to realistically see, but I'm excited to see the guy up too.
And especially not versatile defense, which I think that team is kind of looking for somebody to play multiple spots, which to me, it was a surprise to see Leon get the call over Shea Whitcomb. I don't know how many folks are watching their Houston AAA clubs, but Shea Whitcomb has been very solid and playing second, first, all 3 outfield spots. I think he even has a little bit of third and short this year. He's kind of been that true utility guy and put up very similar numbers to Leon, which I kind of thought maybe he could potentially slide in and real nice into a bench role for them after Loperfido was traded. But right now, apparently Leon is stepping into Loperfido's role.
And Trey Cabbage, who was sent back down as the lost man just before the deadline, he's back up again. Not regular playing time, but not somebody that they cast aside to turn the page on to the next guy. Which for Govier, who's desperately grasping onto him in certain leagues, especially in the 30-team points league, that he didn't make one trade at the deadline. He did not make one trade at our deadline. I don't even know if he looked at the league that day, I got to say. However, he's on a big heater since his 0-4 start. I think he's been like 11-1. So it's hard to argue, or maybe it's been even better than that. Dude. Yeah, he's been real good in that league. But again, trade deadline, you gotta have fun. So Leon's up. Let's talk about it again in 2 weeks and see what the playing time situation has been for him. A fun one. This is also a guy who's been up and then demoted, came back without a starting job. Now it looks like he's got one and potentially rest of season. Osvaldo Bido with Oakland. That is my Jesus takes the wheel pick. He's 3% rostered on Yahoo. His first quality start last week, but in his last 3 starts, 14 2/3 inning pitched, 18 Ks. The next 2 starts look okay for him. He's in Toronto. He'll then be in against the Mets the following week, and I didn't catch the third one, but it looks like he's lined up to be in a good spot. So I would like to see some good things from him because I think 2 of his last 3 starts have been decent. He got a blow up in between. But he's a super under the radar guy, and I put the Yahoo for 3% just for anybody who's out there, and like Eddie in the deep leagues. If you're looking for a streaming style matchup, as he's mentioned in some of the comments here, he's got Mitch Spence as a potential guy on the Blue Jays. Beto could be another one you could add to that. But again, when you start double stacking with 100 loss potential teams, you're going to get burned eventually. It will happen. You're not getting quality starts back to back. As much as I like Spence, there are guys out there, and Beto's just one that I'm telling you all to take a flyer on here.
Genius.
Yes. And one thing I did want to say, I just talked about Govier. I throw shade at him when he's not on. I throw shade at any Atlanta Brave prospect or player when possible. My deep affection for the man running the show there, Alex Anthopoulos, and his Canadian heritage. Fantasy trade deadlines are, passing by the day. They're coming up if they haven't yet. I'm sure within a week, everybody should be done them. Has anyone out there, anyone in their chat, and again, join us, Palazzo Podcast at YouTube, subscribe to us on there so you can find out when we're going live. Hop in the chat. Have you made big, impactful fantasy trades, or have you made small trades, smart trades that are making your various teams better in your leagues? In my home league, I now, Ben, roster the number 1, number 2, and number 3 fantasy players in an 8x8. That's Aaron Judge. Soto is second, and I think Batter, this is a Yahoo site, Batter Otani is third. And I just added Judge. So this is my trade. This is a 6-man keeper, 6 veterans you get to keep, and 1 rookie. I traded my injured Ronald Acuna, my not pitching this year, Shohei Ohtani, and my first, second, third, and fourth round picks for Aaron Judge, Brady Singer, and hopefully my league winner, Drew Rasmussen, coming back. And I got back his 4 worst picks, because you always trade draft picks even in that league.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty big one. And then I further bolstered my lineup by trading Garrett Crochet, who's no longer going to be in quality start territory rest of the season and all that stuff with Chicago. I traded him for Camilo Doval with the Giants, and Zach Gallen, is pitching tonight. It was not pretty, but he's counting. I mean, in an 8x8, you can help in several ways. You can hurt in several. He was neutral for me, but there's no way I was going to keep Crochet over next year. I got good pitching. He also gave me the option of giving him Kyle Harrison in that deal, but I like Harrison rest of season more than Crochet for potential fantasy impact. But anybody out there make any big fun trades, or just ditch a horrible contract in a contract league? That's always fun.
See, I like this deal. I like the first deal here. He moved Brian Hayes and Chris Bryant for Jacob Young. For those,
was it because the names were similar? It was tripping you up, Eddie. You're like, I keep starting the wrong guy.
Jacob Young, for those who haven't been on the roller coaster ride this year, has really not. I don't know that he has had 2 weeks the same all year long, which has really been frustrating. And that goes with his speed and his on base. But when he steals, or when he gets steals, and he's had a lot of them this year, and the Nationals are running wild this year, when he goes, he seems to get 7 in a week. It's really, he just goes boom. And so, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch when he's going well. When he's not, it's going to be a 230 on base, and he's not going to get you in his steals, and you're going to want to pull your hair out. So Jacob Young is just one of those fun rides as a fantasy owner, but I like that deal. I like that deal overall, especially if you didn't need Hayes for third base. That's a great value deal right there.
Yeah.
Trading Wilson Contreras for Bryson Stott. I really like what Stott could possibly do the rest of the year. I know he's had a rough start to this season, but he's one of those guys who's got just too much darn talent to be this bad all year long.
Wow. So as you were discussing Eddie's trade with Alex Call, I'm going to pull up what Sound Money says. Or Jacob Young and Alex Call, different people. So Sound Money, I'm looking at that moment, I'm looking up Alex Call, and I'm like, Well, he's got the same permissions, to go out and do those things. Because when the trades happened and Washington was clearing guys out, I'm like, oh, good. Alex Call's going to get maybe like his final opportunity, but he should certainly get his opportunity with the Nats one more time. He's made the most of it so far. 2 stolen bases, I think, in the last week now. Not the same person, but he might accidentally do a misfortune, a diss on Young by taking away some at bats. And then Eddie was pointing out that in this, anybody else have this one? This is a crazy thing I've never heard. In his league, they have a shopping rule. All trades have to be announced on the league homepage by both owners, which begins a 24-hour window for other owners to make counter offers to either side. That is freaking ridiculous. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
This is an approved trade. We're doing it. And then anyone out there can try to because the worst thing, especially in home leagues, right? You get a few guys who pay attention here and there, or they're real big fans of whatever team. So, where we are, we've got Tiger fans and Blue Jay fans. So a lot of times those guys are more heavily rostered than, the other 28 teams. But it would be interesting if all of our trades had that same 24 hours. And because a lot of times it's like, oh man, like you got hosed, or, we got a guy, Glenn, who just like always finds a way to lose. And it'd be one of those things where it's like, no, like don't make this offer. If you're trading such and such, like I will give you, and then they can do it. And then it shuts everybody up from, trash. I love that idea. I mean, I also hate it because you can't make like a super good trade without everybody freaking out or somebody just wanting to like block you. But again, that adds to it. Somebody makes a trade like I have to try to win my league this year. In that league I announced I got judging. I'm second now, half a game back of first with like 3 weeks left in our season. And there's money for finishing in the top 3, and then there's money for winning in the playoffs. So it's worth it to me to, do that. I'll get to sit around and drink the first 4 rounds of next year's draft while I wait to make my first pick. But I love that. That's a real interesting one. So
I better get this. Aaron has mentioned this already since he thinks we are throwing shade on Yolber Diaz. I will correct the record to say my point was that they have had a lot of quad A guys and Yolber Diaz and Christian Mena. Not that Yolber Diaz is a quad A guy, but guys like Ryan Nelson is, to me, a high quality quad A type of guy. I don't know if he is a long-term answer in the rotation, and I'm okay with being wrong on that. But
right,
they've pitched a lot of guys in their rotation this year that, like I said, that's an apt description of a lot of guys who picked up innings as a starter for them this year. But no, I don't think that, Blake Walston is a real good example. There's a guy who's definitely a quad A type at arm, unfortunately, because man, was he a good high school pitcher. But, let's, Slade Ciccone, another.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of guys who just can, if they could get on a heater, they could get multiple starts. But
Yolber Diaz, no, I don't think Yolber is a quad A guy, but he's definitely a guy that you aren't going to see as much when you start getting guys like Rodriguez back. So that's what
I'll help you here, but he's no Brent Honeywell Jr. Right. So there are some good trades in this one. I think this is a good topic. We'll have to set this one to the side with the big trade stuff. So don't forget Eddie and everybody else who's announcing the trades. I like it, but I do want to sleep tonight. So let's get on to our main topic. Because I've had a long day on the road, and I mean, it was it's a long weekend here in Canada. They call it, I forget if this isn't Labor Day, but it's like Simcoe Day, which is for an individual who has everything in this province named after him. Simcoe is the last name. So, it's almost, Sound Money says, what is it, Canada? It's almost like that. It's a Canadian thing, but I think this is in Ontario, the province of Ontario. This is our own holiday we've got. So anyway, tonight we are talking about top performers the last 30 days at AA, which, depending on your league settings, I know I have a draft that starts on the 15th of this month. I hunt AA guys because it's who's not rostered and who not necessarily has a chance at getting up this year, but who could be the Reese Olson, Spencer Arigati, the good couple of arms who
Mhm.
in AA they clicked, and Olson was traded, which further kind of highlighted him to the rest of the fantasy community. But they're guys who I was able to pick up when they were at the AA level succeeding, and then kind of have rolled now into major league starting rotations. So this is a good spot to get all those kind of guys. And Ben, full credit to him, has put together the list for us tonight. So we're going to fire off in the Eastern League to get rolling. And I think is the easiest way here, Ben, for us to just go man to man, and we'll just walk down this instead of rhyming off all the names, so we're not skipping.
Yeah, I think that's fine. There's a couple of them where you're going to have two guys from a roster, and we can maybe bring them back there, but bring them together there. But other
is it name your own holiday day? I mean, I wish that would be great. I'd like a trucks day. I'll have that, at a truck show in a couple weeks here. But okay, so Eastern League, Petey Halpin. This was a 2020 second or third round pick. No, fourth round.
Third.
High schooler.
I had just pulled him up. Yep.
Okay.
There were people putting a lot of Mickey Moniak counts on him in high school. Now, Mickey Moniak in high school, if you remember, went 1-1, but it was we want to get some money for later in the draft sort of 1-1, not a true you're the best player in the entire country 1-1. But Halpin had a lot of the same profile, contact-oriented guy, not a ton of power. Everyone expected him to have a bunch of speed. That's never materialized, at least on the bases. The guy so far has stolen 48 bases and 73 attempts. So not exactly the most successful of base stealers, but he's been on a heater lately. And nothing elite, but what we'll see as we get down here, Eastern League is very pitching heavy this year. And so a guy with Halpin's got a 278, 361, 528 triple slash, 5 homers, which is tied for the most in the league in the last 30 days, 3 steals, and then a 10 to 23 walk to strikeout over the month.
And I will say, but that's a good line. I will say on Halpin, at the time that he was drafted with Cleveland, it was really unfortunate because they had done prior to that a horrible job of developing outfielders. Now, since that time, Stephen Kwan snuck up on us. 9 other outfielders, including previously mentioned Alex Call, who the organization did the right thing of sending out to get playing time elsewhere. This
profile specifically, they've done well developing since drafting him. When he was drafted, they're like, gosh, A, you don't develop any outfielders, but B, you're definitely not doing a great job of developing guys whose skill set is this. And then, I won't compare Halpin directly to Stephen Kwan, but that's really if you max out Petey Halpin's skills, he turns into Stephen Kwan. That's really his absolute top end best case scenario. So that he's finding his stride. This is his second year in AA, but it was a high school draftee, so he's 22 in AA. That's pretty much right on par where you want a guy to be as a prospect. If he ends up finishing out this year strong and does well in AAA, that's going to be a really nice piece for Cleveland to play with next year late in the season.
Yeah, and I think he's at the point now where this would be the protect him or he's Rule 5 eligible. So I think that's right with the high school guys. It would be after so it would be their 2020
their fourth
years
or
they're
fifth
drafted. Yeah, so
that's right, because of the 2020. I always forget the 2020 draft because I usually look for the 5th year of playing because most play in their draft year.
So I don't, because they wouldn't have played, right? So I don't know if they would count any of that or not. So let's assume they do. So if it was for sure the end of like that 5th potential professional season, although they didn't get to play, they were not going to promote him to AAA. It's not beneficial to him or the organization to let him get a little taste of that because they don't want him to even be considered for the Rule 5. So he should be 40-man roster. Like I'm in one league where we are going to have to put all of our 2020 guys onto our 40-man roster. So this offseason is going to be kind of a wacky one where a lot of bad teams are going to be able to scoop up a lot of talent. The one thing we don't do is we don't announce everyone that's available to be picked. They either are or not. And
or not. Okay.
Yeah, we actually had an owner last year who didn't realize Jason Dominguez needed to be protected. And when we tried to contact him the day before, he didn't get back to us. So in the Rule 5 draft, he went first. And then the guy proceeded to quit the league because he was pissed. But again, that's the fun of fantasy baseball, right?
Oh boy.
This gentleman is a very good player, fantasy player, and has won a 30-man league multiple times. But he just kind of, escaped. Life got in, and he didn't make the move. So Petey Halpin, anyway, on point, is one of those types of guys that teams we should all now be looking at. He's been a slow burn on your dynasty rosters. I've got him in a few leagues. Awesome to see his last 30 days have now started to see the power, the average, and the OBP, which is great.
Yeah.
So next up, Philly's got a guy in Reading, Carson Taylor. Unfortunately, it's a catcher, but I'm going to try to be positive, right? Because he could always move to first base.
There are numbers that I thought you would enjoy, and plus,
they're beautiful.
There's a minor league free agent last year that the Phillies signed. He was originally drafted by the Dodgers and kind of peaked out in Double-A with them, and with the depth they have at catcher, they really didn't need to bring him back all that bad. But this is a Virginia Tech guy who was a 4th-round pick, so there's some pedigree here to some degree. But man, the walks to strikeouts over the last month, 17 walks, 7 strikeouts. That's pretty. Oh, good Lord. We're getting into dad jokes even. Can he offer a helping hand? Huh? But Carson Taylor probably, if he really maximizes everything, is a backup catcher, So, but that walk to strikeout rate I thought was incredibly impressive. I will say it's the best walk to strikeout rate that I saw the entire time looking at the Double-A hitters. So that's a big reason why he's here. But yes, a 3.46 and almost a 3.56 slash line will get you that every time.
And 17 walks to 7 Ks is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you want to see, I want to know where Carson Taylor goes to camp next year. I want to see the organization and see if there's a way that if he stays with the Phillies, or if he's a wild, I was going to say wild animal. If he's a minor league free agent, very similar, and he can go wherever he wants to go. Is he going to try to find himself in a situation where, again, Philly's a good one to be in? Romuto is, he's not kicking around for a whole lot longer, and they might be looking to supplement, especially somebody with a bat, right? A catcher, as long as he's good enough at catching, that they want to put his bat in play outside of, putting him in DH. You don't want the Alejandro Kirk situation where everybody says he can't catch, and then you talk to anyone who throws to him, and they're like, "Oh, we love Kirk. He's great. We're perfectly." You want it to be like a well-known fact that, Taylor could be somebody that's of use. So, a more highly touted guy than a released from their draft organization, Roman Anthony, an outfielder for Portland, which is with Boston. He's had a 313, 380, 547 line, 3 ding-dongs, 8 stolen bases, and a 3, unfortunately, 1 to 3 strikeout to walk, 7 walks, though, 21 Ks over the last 30 days, which I'm sure is fine. It's not perfect, but that's okay. But this is one of those, guys that I want to fail miserably because it's a Boston player. I think he's good. Anthony's good.
You need to not watch Portland because that's where a lot of the best guys in the Boston system happen to be right now. Mayer and next guy we're going to talk about here, and Christian Campbell. He's also doing very well in Portland. They've got Kyle Teal there. That's a really loaded lineup. Probably, I would say maybe 4 of their 6 to 7 best offensive prospects are in that lineup right now. So,
and Campbell, just so everybody knows, second base outfielder type, 329, 422, 443 line the last month, 7 stolen bases, 11 walks, and only 8 Ks. I love when they are able, I don't care how big the number is of the percentage. I love when they're able to take more walks than strikeouts. Even if it's a Quan type who has a ton of contact, he's still able to be in that range. Soto's the golden rule. That's your golden goose. Sorry, he's your big one that you want to look to for that. But in the mind, the minor league levels, when guys are able to do that, it's a good sign that if they move up and they're seeing the pitch really well at AA or single A, when they move up, they should at least be able to continue to take walks. It might not be 1-to-1 anymore, but it's going to be somewhat sustainable OBP if they can also still catch up to the fastballs that they're going to be getting thrown at them. So, but yeah, a couple guys with Portland here, and Campbell, I guess position versatility here would be the only thing. Anthony is a true outfielder, and Campbell, you can move him around more within the organization or in the infield as well.
And that's, I think we've talked about on here before the move that they made with Matthew Lugo to move him to left field.
Freed him up.
He's really done much better in that position. What I love about the work that they did with Campbell is he is mostly playing second and center field. And now, that's right. With Mayer is on the shelf right now, and Campbell is playing shortstop. So
this is Mookie Betts.
This is, well, I was going to say more like
coaching staff that had Mookie Betts.
More like a lesser quality defense, Ceddanne Rafaela.
If you want to
compare. Yeah. And so, a lot of similar skills, but nowhere near the top end as far as speed, nowhere near the top end as far as defense that Rafaela has, but a much better plate discipline profile. So this is a guy that this is what they wish they had in David Hamilton right now, because David Hamilton would be playing every day at second, short, or center if he could do this. But that's not his profile right now. So, but we'll move on to the Eastern League pitchers. And if we would have done this the first go around when I put this list together, I had 6 pitchers and 4 of them were out of the Akron Cleveland Guardians rotation.
Akron, you said that your pronunciation was Akron.
It's Akron.
But I like that. Akron. That sounds more better.
Remember that I'm one of those upper Midwest,
but I
have lots of folks that are from, Minnesota.
I like how it sounds. I'm drinking it in. Akron. I'm on it. I am now Akroning with you. Okay.
So Aaron Davenport is the guy who is led the league in. Yeah, there we go. Akron is Conan the Barbarian God. Conan. But Davenport was not on this list last time, which is kind of funny that, like I said, I had 4 starters from Akron that were on this list, and now a different one has popped up in the last 30 days. So go figure. But he had led the Eastern League in strikeouts in this time. 19 1/3 innings, 2.33 ERA, 103 WHIP, 29-7 strikeout to walk. And he's had a solid season. 2.72 ERA, over 106 innings, 102 strikeouts. He's 23 in AA, not young, but University of Hawaii guy, so probably had some time to develop. But little 6-foot-tall right-hander. And we know that those guys that are not exactly 6'8" and are not exactly 98 mile an hour off the mound are the perfect guys to come through the Cleveland system. And then suddenly they pop up and they're an elite number 4 starter for 4 years.
And like Aaron Savale still somehow able to be coveted,
Yeah.
Like even with his ups and downs, right?
He frickin' burned me last week as a streamer, and so Savali's on my shit list right now.
I apologize for bringing that up. I didn't mean to do that too.
Lost my second matchup all year by 4 points, and he gave me -5.
Oh,
yeah. So if I would have just
benched
him at all, I would have won that week.
At least you're in a position where it wasn't like necessary for you. Like Sundays, I'm crossing both fingers and everything else I can on like Osvaldo Bido to have a not blow up start to win, in a league where I traded away most of my pitching simply because I thought, I don't know, there's like 4 teams in front of me. And as I'm doing that, 2 of them kind of leveled off with me, and I've since, I'm now tied in the final playoff spot, but now I'm banking on a bunch of, waiver wire guys in a 30-team league. So, but Savale was once one of those guys who everybody was like, oh, he's not going to be this good. And he's sustained success until last week when now he's officially dead to Ben. But Aaron Davenport is a quality guy to watch for exactly what you just said, Ben. Cleveland maxes them out, and we reap the benefits of people not believing that they are going to be able to sustain things. And then they can. Whereas with Detroit, they are just lining them up. And some are working and some aren't. And that's a great system too. And Troy Melton, who's now in Double-A Erie with the Seawolves, in the last month, 22 innings pitched, 28 strikeouts, only 4 walks, a 1 whip, and a 3.27 ERA. That's quality right there. Quality pitching.
Yeah. And that rotation also has guys like Jackson Jobe. There's a lot of good guys in that Erie rotation.
Matt Manning will be down there soon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But he's definitely stood out over the last month, and really has established himself as a guy that you need to know. I mean, I think Jacob Hamm coming the other direction, coming up from high A, is going to likely be there this year. That's kind of one of Detroit's breakout pitchers of the year. So you could have some really intriguing guys to watch in Erie because I have a feeling Jackson Jobe, more than likely at this point with the season kind of tanked, just let him be. Don't bring him up. Don't worry about it. We'll see what he's got in spring training, and maybe he's a May call up. Maybe he presses us so darn much in March that he's coming north with the big club, but we'll see. But I would wager that he's probably sticking around Erie the rest of the year, which then you get Melton, you get Hamm to come up there. You're going to have a pretty fun rotation to watch for the rest of the year in Erie.
There's definitely, this is something for, January. There's definitely a way for us to be able to make sandwiches out of players' last names, because we got Mayo, there's Ham. You go to Seattle, get some Saucedo with that. There are guys out there. So that's just somebody remind us in December. But yeah, so you could call it a Melton, right? Like a melt, everybody. Like a melt. Yeah. So let's move back to Akron and go to Ryan Webb, who over the last month in Double-A, 22 innings pitched, a 2.05 ERA, a 1.14 whip, 28 Ks again over those 22 innings, and 6 walks. Very similar, a little sharper of a line than Melton, but dazzling.
And this is the ideal profile that Cleveland just turns into. The 6'1" lefty from University of Georgia, was kind of thought of as a college lefty prototype, that throws in the upper 80s, low 90s. They've gotten him up to 92 pretty consistent and can touch a little more, but they've really done a lot with the action on his pitches. And he's a 2.87 ERA guy this year, 106 innings, 118 strikeouts, only allowed 4 home runs, which you've got to love those numbers. He's 25, just kind of sitting there, Double-A, hey, if you guys need me, here I am.
Right. Yeah.
And seriously, I made this last time. He was the number 1 pitcher last time. So, he's had a real strong overall season start to finish.
Ben, over or under rostered percentage for Ryan Webb on Fantrax? Over or under 8%? I guess I have got to say 8. Sorry, 8.5.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely under, because unless everyone's mistake
1%.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless you're mistaking him for the former reliever Ryan Webb and think that he might be already in the big leagues or something to that effect. But no, but like I said, this is exactly the type that they do really well with.
Yeah.
So
now we've got a recently traded Tyler Stewart, starting pitcher, Birmingham / Harrisburg. So that's the Mets and the Washington Nationals. 27 innings. So he's now with the Nats. 27 innings pitched, a 2 ERA, a 0.93 whip, and 27 innings pitched, 27 Ks. So totally fine. Not dominating, but 5 walks in 27 innings at Double-A. I like that. I mean, I watched a couple high A pitchers last month giving up free passes, tons of contact. So knowing that at a level up, you got a guy who is handling his own, putting it in the zone, and not giving away that. Oh, Tyler Stewart, that's good. Disciplined pitching.
And he's the center on their big team, 6'9", and
right, part of the Nationals,
part of Nationals basketball team.
Yeah,
but he comes from like a low 3/4 slot and repeats the crap out of it. Which, I mean, as he gets closer to the majors, he's going to have to make sure he stays on top of the breaking pitches, because that has been an issue for him in the past. Is coming from that low 3/4 spot, he'll sometimes get on the side of his breaking pitches, and then they just kind of spin and sit in the middle of the zone, and Aaron Judge puts those 24 rows deep. So you want to be really careful about making sure you're on top of that as he moves up into the major leagues. But this is a guy I've been watching pretty heavily for a couple of years now in the Mets organization, and now moving on to Washington. Maybe a 3-starter, probably a 4-starter, but a 4-starter that could just, like I said, it's not common for a 6'9" guy to repeat himself so easily.
Right.
But he does. And so that's
credit
a weapon.
to him. Yeah, credit to him and the coaching staffs he's had to be able to keep him on track, because that's a lot of movement going on, a lot of long limbs. So we've got a couple of Altoona boys. Those are Pittsburgh Pirates pitchers, and Thomas Harrington and take two. We'll edit this. Watch 3, 2, 1. Pu Chen. So Harrington, 18 2/3 innings pitched, a .96 ERA, a .86 WHIP. My goodness, 26 Ks, 4 walks. Chen, 26 1/3 innings pitched, 2.05 ERA, .91 WHIP, 21 Ks, 4 walks. So Harrington is the high octane arm of the two, but Chen, even with his Chen kind of being forgotten, has pitched 8 more innings over that period of time, 8 1/3 more innings. So WHIP, they're within contention here, but Harrington is just sitting them down, not giving away the free passes. And I mean,
if he could stay healthy since he's been drafted, he would be way up there in the prospect rankings, but that's been his issue.
And he is 16% rostered on, sorry, Ben, he's 16% rostered on Fantrax for anybody out there who's interested to know. He also was just promoted now, made his first start at AAA tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, 5 2/3 innings pitched, in a no decision for that. So there we go.
Yeah, not so pretty, but yeah,
No, 5 2/3 innings pitched, but it was a no decision. I didn't say he gave up all the runs to start it.
It was 5 runs. It was 5 runs and 5 2/3. So yeah, not pretty, but at the same time, it's his first start at the level.
Yeah.
And this is a guy they've been waiting on, and they drafted him out of Campbell, really thought they could develop him well. But this system, holy crap, the pitching in the Pirates system is starting to get fun, and definitely starting to get a very, very deep system full of pitchers, which is why you saw they could move a guy like Quinn Priester at the deadline to help booster, and they got Nick York in return. And so now they're just going to do things to make sure they never give Nick Gonzalez any playing time.
Come on. I acquired him last week in a deal for a team. Joe Musgrove went the other way. I got back, oh my goodness, I got back a good pitching prospect. I'll have to remember for the future. It was Brandon Williamson, not prospect, but returning for the Reds. I took a flyer on Tristan McKenzie for the rest of this year and next year, and then Gonzalez was the other one. And I thought Gonzalez is that type of second base guy that I typically never go after. So let's just roster him in a league. So I don't want to hear any more of that crap. All right. I want to hear that there are at bats to be had.
There's at bats to be had. I just don't know who's going to actually
MLB level distributed at bats for Gonzalez.
And I think he's going to be in the mix. I just think that they're going to find ways to make that a 2-guy show now, rather than just handing their former top 5 overall pick the friggin' job. But anyway, I don't run the team. That's their decision. Yes. But their other guy, Po Yu Chen, from Taiwan. This is now his fourth year in the system, and kind of has just been going up a level at a time. Not a guy that I would ever expect you're going to get a 300 strikeout season out of. That's not his game. His game is make him hit it. And so far this year, 109 innings pitch and 77 strikeouts. That's okay. If you can work with your defense and make sure that they're catching the ball for you, that works just fine. And I will say he's another guy who was on this list before when I did the previous 30 days. So someone to keep note of. Definitely going to fall behind a lot of bigger names like a Bubba Chandler, like a Harrington, like a lot of other guys in this system, but could be just as impactful down the road, because the guy that can come in as your fifth starter and consistently give you 8 innings in that role. I mean, good Lord, the Braves would die for that right now on their roster. They're calling Bryce Elder back up. So, what's that?
Chen is your ideal points league, late round pickup or throw in a trade type guy where you're not aggressively seeking him out. He's also 0% rostered on Yahoo. And in my dynasty leagues, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leagues for myself, he's only rostered in 1, and it's by a shark in a very deep league. And he may have just taken him thinking he was one of the other Taiwanese players. And I wish I could check to see when he acquired him. I was going to say I'd have to go into my league archives for that. So, but Chen is on the board there. And again, 2 guys with the Pirates, like we talked about, the system there on the pitching side is good. And as we discussed before the draft, it seemed logical to get some college pitchers to kind of jump these guys. But, their game plan is clearly to add bats to the system, as they did at the deadline as well. So, but moving on to San Francisco, who could use, I think their primary need is health. That's what the organization is looking for. Yeah. Then we can see what the guys can do. But one guy who's really been excelling is Seth Lonesway. 21 2/3 inning pitched, 0 earned runs, a 1.06 whip, 16 Ks in the 21 2/3 innings, and 5 walks. Nice line, man.
Yeah.
Haven't given up an earned run.
25-year-old lefty was Ohio State. There we go. I was like, he was a Big Ten pitcher. Where did he go? Ohio State.
He's showing up on Fantrax as a free agent. Don't hold that against him. 0% rostered, because Carson Taylor, who we mentioned earlier, do I have that right? Yeah, Carson Taylor with Philly is still listed as a Dodger. If anyone went and looked, or if you're going to look in the future, just so you know. And Carson was, I think, 0% rostered as well. So guys like that, because Fantrax has such a deep base they draw from, not all those little things are going to be accurate all the time. They didn't actually have Honeywell set with Pittsburgh all year until he was called up. They had him still sitting, I think, with the White Sox after one of the DFA moves he had. So I love the site. I think they do a great job, but they got so many names that sometimes when I'm checking these things out to let us know what the roster percentage is, you find these little errors. So it says he's not on a team right now. And I know in some leagues that might mean you can't pick him up, but just explain to those commissioners. He is, send a ticket to Fantrax. Anyway, so Lonesway, as you said, a lefty. This is the perfect, maybe he's got like 2 pitches that San Francisco's, starting to hone in on. The K to 9's not there, but at the same time, ball in play, ends innings, things of that nature, he could still move up. So, it's he's come a Lone's way, I guess, right? Just to hop into the dad jokes.
Look at that. Look at that. I mean, before we get in, that's our last Eastern League guy. Before we hit the Southern League, Eddie, you get comments like Thanks, that. Eddie. Just that's genuine. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie is hoping that everyone at Palazzo truly believes that you guys are going to blow up big time. You guys are really the best thing going out here in Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Don't forget us when you do. Well, maybe Eddie, as a person who has been a very large man my entire life, I really have no issue remembering the little people, because everyone to me is little people. So, there we go.
Well, maybe we'll turn into like the donut media of fantasy baseball, and then Govier will sell us to a conglomerate, and one by one we'll all like dick off and start our own, like the donut guys. For anyone who knows what I'm talking about on YouTube, it's a thing that's occurring in that side of the automotive side of YouTube, and it's been interesting to watch. Anyway, let's move on here to the Southern League. Geez, we're a whole hour in, and we still got 2 leagues to go. I guess that's what happens when you talk about things you love. Next guy up, unfortunately, is a Cub, but I love the rest of it. Matt Shaw.
2 of them. The next 2 of them. We can
I'll double it up then. I'll double it up.
Yep.
Long-time prospect. Kevin Alcantara is the first one I'll mention then. Outfielder, 317 average, 413 OBP, 508 slug. Beautiful. 3 ding-dongs, 2 stolen bases, 10 walks, and 12 Ks. He's since been promoted to AAA.
Usually he's been a
he has been a
master,
KK. So that's a real positive for him. And Matt Shaw, who was drafted in 2 years ago, was he last year? Was he 2 drafts ago?
Yeah,
2023.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
No,
was it 2022?
3.
Okay, so 2 draft classes ago.
Yeah, just last summer. Yeah.
Sorry, that's how my years are now that I'm considering the last month's draft line. So anyway, that aside, 377, 418, 609 line, 4 home runs, 6 stolen bases, and this I like. This tells me contact. 5 walks, 6 Ks. That's a lot of balls in play.
Yeah.
So
45, 65 on the year. 45 walks, 65 strikeouts on the year in 371 plate appearances. So low strikeout rate, solid walk rate. But what I love is it's not just home runs for power. I mean, it's doubles power. It's, a couple of triples in there too. He's showing some good speed. I mean, he filled up every line in the stat sheet well, all the way along the way. So, but both of those guys now are in AAA, so we don't get to watch them in AA anymore. But they were 2 of the guys who had the best numbers in the last month. So,
and they're all rostered in your league. So if you're going to pay, if you're trying to get them, you're going to pay for them. If you're looking for somebody to buy on the low, it'll not be this next guy; it'll be the one after. The guy I'm going to mention now, Chandler Simpson, outfielder with Montgomery. I think I nailed the accent right there, which is Tampa Bay. 359, 408, 391. So we know what's coming next with the home runs. 0. We don't have the power there, but it's okay, because if you do what I do, which is you combine home runs and stolen bases to make that into your super fantasy category, where you want a player to have north of 40 in total of those, then you've got a good fantasy player. It's just, are they heavy on the home runs? Are they heavy on the stolen bases? Or are they perfect and they're 20-20 guys? You got 17 stolen bases coming from Simpson in the last month, and 6 strikeouts, 5 walks. So you got to turn your head away. Sorry.
I flipped that around. I
6
wrote
walks,
it in
5 Ks. The one thing you got to do is you got to turn your head to the side a little bit on power. But this is very much like the argument that people have made before, where guys can't, do one fantasy category. Do not discount it. This guy is a Luis Ariz, average guy. This is somebody who you put in, and then when Aaron Judge goes
really high contact guy.
You've got Chandler Simpson right there helping to keep you afloat in weekly leagues or in Roto. You can always stick him in for somebody who you want more total production from, but over the weekend you need average and stolen base. You need whatever it is you need for that weekend series to kind of make things right for your Sunday nights. This looks like a great get. I mean, it's a AA. But you see the line right now. Obviously, the power is not going to magically become 20 home run guy here.
This is really Juan Pierre at his peak, sort of a player, which was a really, really valuable fantasy player because, he was only going to get you like 35 to 45 RBI, but the guy was, even on some kind of mediocre Marlins teams, was scoring 100 runs, was getting you 60 plus stolen bases, and was hitting 300. That's big numbers in 3 different categories of 5x5. So you gotta love a guy like that.
Yeah, so definitely eyes on Simpson moving forward. And again, I'd mentioned we had a buy low guy here, Jacob Marseille, who was offered to me a couple times in last week, which tells me what's going on right now, because he was a super popular pickup the last offseason. for any of those leagues where he wasn't
almost beat out Jackson Merrill. For those of you who are enjoying the Jackson Merrill rookie experience, those two went down to the very last, for sure, the last week before that overseas game that the Padres and Dodgers played. But for sure that last week, maybe even the last couple of days, Marcy was battling Jackson Merrill for the center field job and then lost it, went down to Double-A, and just never got his feet under him all year long, but is finally just a little bit starting to show some signs.
Yeah, 227, 422, 348. So 2 home runs, 12 stolen bases, 19 walks, 20 strikeouts. I mean, obviously the OBP right there. Definitely check. I mean, it doesn't seem as good now, Ben, that you've got Chandler Simpson with his 17, and then the next guy, you're like, he only has 12. Imagine one guy giving you 12 stolen base. I have leagues where I don't get 12 in a month because I punted for power and you try to pick him up. So, like here's a guy, right? Traded now with the Marlins. The Marlins have not done an excellent job with developing outfielders, with having guys that have been traded and getting them up to the level. But at some point we see a little bit of daylight here, and maybe we'll see that in 2025 and this offseason. This is a good note, right? We've had a month of a bit of a bump up in the OBP and some things that weren't doing well earlier in the year. Let's see if it continues through August.
And he definitely on a roster now. They've traded Chisholm away.
Yep, there's room.
They're going to be looking for a center fielder next year for sure. And so, not saying he's ended the rest of this year type of guy. I'm pretty sure they want to see him finish out the year strong before they give him the major league job. But certainly there's a center field job open next year, and he could definitely compete for it. So,
now we've got 4 pitchers to go through. We're heading to Chattanooga, Montgomery, Rocket City, and Biloxi. We'll start off with a top 10 pick in the 2023 draft. I'll just call it that now, Ben. I won't say last year because
we both got confused, I think. So.
Yeah. So Rhett Lauder, right-handed pitcher with the Reds, 22 innings pitched, 1.23 ERA, .77 WHIP, 16 Ks, and 5 walks. Great. This was somebody that people were thinking, he'll be up later this year. He's like a locked-in guy. It hasn't happened as quickly. That's okay. No. With Cincinnati, they were able to move out their opening day pitcher, Frankie Montas, thinking that brighter days are ahead. But it's for guys like Lauder that they will have space in at some point next year. But I'm sure you really lock it in on 2026 that we should see Lauder up. And this is a great line to see from him.
I think one of the things that's big to see in this line, and this is something I watched him a couple of different starts, and I think he might, if he didn't get a AAA bump already, he's being talked about for it. I've been starting to hear his name a lot for that. But at the start of the year, he was trying to be essentially a really good fantasy starter. He was trying to attack hitters, get strikeouts, and kind of be a dominant starter. That's never who he's been. At Wake Forest, he had games like that, singular games, but usually what he was so good at doing was he could just control a lineup by being him and by throwing the right pitches to make guys just hit crappy ground outs to the shortstop all game long and control a lineup because he'd get through 8 innings and he would have thrown 65 pitches. And you're just like, how the hell is he still going at 65 pitches and this game is almost over? That's just not fair. And he's leaned back into that, and suddenly he's doing it against Double-A professional hitters. That's really, really stinking impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can move now back to Tampa Bay. We'll go to, back to Montgomery, and we're going to get Logan Workman, 26 innings pitched the last month, a 1.38 ERA, .88 WHIP. I love when the WHIP is sub 1.25. These guys are blowing that out of the water at sub ones. In the 26 innings pitched, we're seeing 21 strikeouts, which again, we're cool with that. And only 4 walks, which is impressive. So he's waiting patiently on the call so he can go up to the Durham Bulls and really live that. Was it Duke Lanouche? right?
Nuke LaLoosh.
Oh my gosh, I was so close. I had letters in the alphabet.
I get it.
But yeah, he wants to go live that lifestyle of being that guy. And I mean, with numbers like this, he's knocking on the door pretty hard.
He's a 6'4" righty and just built to be that kind of, we've talked about it a few times here. If he really hits his possibilities, he's a back of the rotation type of guy that eats a ton of innings doing it. So number 4, number 5 guy that gives you 30 starts and 180 innings, that's really stinking valuable. It might be a 4 ERA, but it's going to be a 4 ERA that he goes out every single time and gives you a quality start. That you'll take that all day long.
Yep, definitely. So we can go to a higher ceiling guy here, and I believe this is a second round pick from 2022. Caden Dana.
I think you're right.
Right-handed pitcher.
No, 11th round pick.
Oh, he's the 11th round. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, he was the later. I think you're thinking of Bachman, maybe, or not Sam Bachman.
No, I just upped it.
There was another guy in that draft.
There was an 8th round guy in the 2023 draft. There was an 8th round guy. So I was like, it's not him, whose name I'm now forgetting. Anyway, so let's just talk about that player, Caden Dana, with the Angels. 21 innings pitched, 25 strikeouts. So there you go for those who want the high K to 9. Only 2 walks, which is way more impressive to me. 2.57 ERA, and this whip, oh my goodness, cream my drawers, 0.67 whip. The guy's got it under lock right now, and
this is one of my top. I don't know. I just picked him as would have been the 99th overall pick in a prospects only mock draft that we're running.
Okay.
One of the quote unquote experts that Chris Welsh is invited
in this league, Prospect One.
Yep. And
if you're not listening to Prospect One,
tremendous.
Do it. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
I have had the privilege of being in this league a couple of times through my Dinger days with Ty, and we had both those guys. I've talked with Bogman several times, as well as Chris. Awesome guys, super smart fantasy, and the Welsh is out there in Arizona. He's got eyes on guys.
Everything, yeah. But he put together that league. I'm in there with a few. Actually, funny enough, there's 3 guys in that league that we've had on this show before, but we'll just leave it until we get to the end of that. But 99th overall pick, I was delighted to still see.
Yeah, that's a slide for me
on the board. But it was. I will say you can do the FYPD guys in this draft too. Mm-hmm. And that was when they started to come off the board as about 90. You started to see quite a few of them, like 85, 90, which that says a lot about where this draft is, but that's a whole nother. But I thought Dana just really slipped comparatively, because there were a lot of pitchers taken that I wouldn't have taken over him.
Well, I was just thinking, I know this happens a lot, Ben, so we can talk about this after that episode drops so it can be official. But to me, Dana is a lock top 15 pitching prospect for me across the board. Name your format. He's there. He's top 15, probably closer to top 10 when I actually break this down at end of season and really take a look. So it shocks me.
20-year-old.
Yeah.
This is a 20-year-old in AA doing this stuff. And his season numbers, I mean, it's not like he's just been this last month. His season numbers, 2.91 ERA, 111 innings pitched, 122 strikeouts, a 0.96 or whip on the entire year as a 20-year-old in AA.
And the Angels push guys up to AA, but typically not the pitchers because they've been drafting so many college guys. So it says something that Dana's up there. There's also, I remember feel like it was 6 weeks ago, about the potential of him getting pushed up as if he could be a 2025 opening day type guy. I don't want to see the Jose Fernandez move for him. I don't think that's a good idea. You don't need it if you're the Angels. That's not the right way to supplement your rotation or to, put the pressure on what would then be a 21-year-old. But 100%, I love this guy. When we do talk about your draft with Welsh or with Prospect One, I will really be interested to see, because I kind of, I openly will say I go out of my way to promote pitching prospects in fantasy, because I know everyone tries to avoid them because of the high risk or what perceived high risk of injury. Everyone's got risk of injury, but they also have risk of performance. So saying that he could have been there in the 90s, I wonder if he was still a top 15 pitcher off the board, or if he was between 16 and 25, because typically 100 picks, you're not going to see 30 pitchers taken. If you get a bunch of gurus together like yourself who want to do it. But when you get dopes like me involved, I start to go and just pick off pitchers because I've yet to see a League One without pitching. You can try to relief pitcher it, but
there's 15 picks, and I had kind of made up my mind that I want to walk out of there with 5 to 7 pitchers. That's my goal, is to end up in that range. And I think Dana was my second pitcher that I took. And I've now got 5. For context, AJ Smith-Shawver was my next pitcher taken.
Oh my God! You picked someone before a Brave. Oh wow! You like
what does that tell you?
Jeez, everybody, listen up! Listen up!
And before George Clausen, a Gopher. So I mean, I mean, we're really talking about some love.
High praise here.
Yeah.
So that's lots on Dana, and there's lots to talk about it with him, especially to me, he's going to be a real heater this offseason.
Oh yeah.
He's already been a big trade target of mine. I've only succeeded, I think, in one dynasty league that means something to me of bringing him in. But here's somebody who I have not given much mind to at all. Shane Smith, right-handed pitcher with Biloxi. That's Milwaukee's organization, AA team. 18 2/3 innings pitched, 19 Ks, 3 walks, a 3.38 ERA, and a .8 WHIP. Nice. So
this is a guy who basically never started a game, and really definitely had never started a game as a professional until this year. They moved him into the rotation. They're doing the Ronaldo Lopez, Garrett Crochet treatment on him. But he is doing very well. He's 22 games, 13 starts, but all of these were starts. So he's not going terribly long, because we're talking 4 starts here in 18 2/3 innings. So not every start out is giving him, major, but 18 2/3. What I loved was the 19-3. That was really, really impressive. That caught my eye. But this is, just a big, 6'4", 235 pitcher from Wake Forest. Was an undrafted free agent by the Brewers after the 2021 season. So that's a really nice get for an undrafted free agent.
Right there.
And in AA, 74 innings, 91 strikeouts this year. So it's, it was just, this was a really interesting guy. When I saw the number, the more I looked into him, the more I went, wow, this Brewers may have found themselves another functionable arm. So,
all right. Well, let's end it there with Smith. Let's move on now to the Texas League. And that doesn't mean
got
just
a
all
quick
Texas.
question. He's been patient, sitting on a question here. I'm guessing that's the Martian. And I would love to be able to tell you, but I think what you're going to need to see first, they're wondering when J. Dom's getting the call. And
Jason Dominguez. For anyone,
I think that you are going to have to wait a little bit, because Giancarlo Stanton just came back, and they're going to try to figure out how he fits into the offense.
That's one guy.
Along with Chisholm, along with all these other
Soto.
new pieces. And and then so
Judge is out there.
Judge is out in center field right now, and you got to find somewhere for him to play. He's going to either be a DH or he's going to be an outfielder, which I got to say his best defensive position is DH.
Mm-hmm. But that's what you're getting Stanton to do,
Yeah.
I still don't have hope that there's a spot for him that's impactful and like positive in a fantasy sense, or just for him, other than being called up and being on the bench, which they don't want to do that if they can have him, down at AAA, playing every day.
And really stinking young, folks. I mean, he's what, 20? Is he even 20?
So 20 to 20, possibly turning 21. So like he's definitely out of Franco territory as far as age.
He is 21. Yeah, he is 21. February of 2003. So, yeah, I mean, this is a guy that absolutely could be up this year and still has, but he still has plenty of time if he doesn't. And
I just don't see the Yankees rushing because there isn't a need to rush.
No.
They've, they did a good job at the deadline of getting in, veterans. They got Jazz in to handle, to help to cover those things. But again, an injury, and sure, yeah, absolutely. So to answer the question, he's getting
just going to pull up
when someone gets hurt.
Since he's come back to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, 185, 267, 222. No home runs, 1 double. 10 strikeouts in 30 plate appearances. So I think he got some work to do still.
Yeah, so they're not going to be rushing him up like the Dodgers might be with Dalton rushing transition. Ding dong. Here as we get back to the Texas League. So with Tulsa, the AA affiliate, in the last month, Dalton rushing, despite being a catcher.
The guy that didn't get traded.
That's right. Has been a fantasy positive. 288 average, 383 OBP, 750 OPS. Or sorry, not what?
Slugging?
Yeah. What?
Oh, God. Okay.
7 home runs, 7 walks, 15
leading
Ks.
all of AA in home runs over the last 30 days.
Yeah. Okay.
That's ridiculous from a catcher. But now, granted, he's been getting some first base and some DH time this year because that bat is one that they want in the lineup.
Warranted it. Yeah.
But good Lord, I mean, I like him as an on-base type of guy that's going to give you 20, 7 home runs in a month. That's impressive. So, and the next guy, also a catcher.
Yeah, let's transition quick here. Jimmy Crooks with St. Louis.
But another one with big power over the last month.
Yeah, 6 home runs for Crooks, 295 average, 348, 623 slug with 4 walks, 16 strikeouts. That's more to the catcher nature, or not necessarily the catcher, the slugger nature of a 4-to-1 K. But at the same time, the average is beautiful. So you're okay with a wonky strikeout to walk ratio when you're hitting almost 300, which is great. So I'm going to guess that Crooks is either 28 or 14 years old. Because with St. Louis, you never know what they're doing with their catchers. Because for 6 years, Molina was on his way out while other prospects came and went within the organization.
Carson Kelly and
Ivan Herrera was the one that outlasted Molina.
Yeah.
And he was a young guy at the AFL once upon a time. And then 4 years later, he was still prospect eligible. But either way, Crooks is a guy I know.
Crooks is right on par for AA. He's 22.
Shocking.
Turned 23 in July. So technically this is his age 22 season.
Yeah.
But 4th round pick in 2022 out of Oklahoma. So good pedigree, came out of an, big time school like Oklahoma. 4th round pick, and just has kind of worked his way up bit by bit. This is just really impressive.
Yep. Yeah. To spend a year at a level and then move. A year at a level and then move. Yep.
But just for perspective, 308 on the year batting average, the 6 home runs in the last month are 2/3 of his total for the year. So he's finding his stride with the power.
That's okay. So moving to a middle infielder, Luke Ketchall, a second baseman with Minnesota, currently in Wichita. He's got a 284, 417. I'm listening. 507 slug, 5 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 11 walks, 13 Ks. It's Minnesota, so that's a knock against just because of the weird things they keep doing with players that haven't earned a position, but they're there. And Ben, I did pass on. I don't know if it was during a recording or before. We were talking about, it was definitely when we were recording. We were doing news notes a few weeks ago on what's his nuts, the Canadian with Minnesota right now.
Julian.
Yes, thank you, Eduardo Julian. And I said, that it seems to make sense that he's not going to be a long-term piece there without something odd happening that allows it to click. And somebody was trying to trade him to me, and I said, I think that's a good decision, but you're asking for a lot back. I think you should try that same deal with somebody else for another kind of like-minded return, because I don't believe at all that there's a future there. And, here's kind of somebody else who gave that opinion. Of course, I don't recommend the show to anybody in my fantasy leagues, which everybody out there, again, just friendly reminder, don't tell anyone in your leagues we exist. But at the same time, promote us outside of that circle as much as you possibly can. I know that sounds hard, but it's important to you that no one else should know to listen. But that's where you come into the chat, and then you can get your direct answers.
Share this link on Facebook.
Yeah,
then
to your
grandma and your aunts and uncles will all click on the podcast and be like, "What are those bearded boys saying?"
Is that one from Canada? I thought this was political.
We are. We were talking about Michael Flynn in the pre-show.
That's right.
Oh, wait. That's
different Michael Flynn.
Mind. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So catch all, because of the depth, I'm not overly excited, but again, for a single month line, this is beautiful stuff. So,
and this is
happy to see it.
The Twins. It sounds like, here's something that they brought up. I've heard it now from 3 different people in the organization on interviews. The Twins were in hard on Flaherty. They were in hard on Crochet. They were in hard to get Fetty, and the in-division price was way too big for them. But this is a team that has tremendous depth, and maybe they don't have, well, I guess you can say that Emmanuel Rodriguez is one of those top 10 type of prospects, but outside of him, it's not like they have a system full of like elite top 10 type of guys. But they got a lot of guys who are fringe 100 guys,
Yes,
Keschel, guys like that. A lot of guys that are depth, that are, fringe 100 type of players. They could make a really good off-season deal for a stud starter or
that's true.
Big batter. It seems like they're putting themselves in position to do something like that. And the purse is cracked open in Minnesota. That normally hasn't been the case, but they're willing to absorb a little bit of money to make a big deal like that happen.
Yeah. And so that's it on him. Let's move on. Denzel Clark with Oakland, an outfielder, is currently in Midland at AA. 323 line, 408, 516. Love that 345. But 1 home run. So this is do we want to call it a gap hitter, a hard hitter, a super fast guy? Because he also has 11 stolen bases, 6 walks, 18 Ks. It seems both fun and dangerous. Like this could be peak. This could be that peak where he's getting it at AA. But in order to have a really high slug, and then depending on your fantasy leagues, not that slug's a popular fantasy category, but OPS is. If you're going to be an OPS, or if you're in an OPS league, you need to know that he could regularly hit doubles so that you can, assume that OPS could be like 725 or higher. You don't want to have a guy who's going to have like a 580 month and then a 700 month, and his OPS is going to look horrible all year long because he can't hit 10 home runs to save his life. So I don't know what Clark's history of power is. But
I was trying to look that up, but my computer decided to be stupid. But I know that when he was originally drafted, he was a huge or big time, like either played college football or was highly recruited in college football, like a big raw athlete. And there's been talk this year that he's making contact, but hasn't really fully turned on all those things. Yeah, 6'4", 220.
Yeah, you know what? I take back everything I said. This guy's Canadian. Okay, you get out there,
get him,
and you put him on your rosters, everybody. Yes, what Ben just said. So he did have 11
home runs
last year. Sorry, he had 12 home runs last year. My apologies. Yep. 11 this year, 15 2 years ago. Yeah, so he's fast, and if it's not over the fence, I mean, yeah, he's making good contact. I'm looking at the stat lines. The one thing I will say is he's yet to exceed 343 at bats, which he should do by the end of this month for a new career high.
And he's
repeating AA also.
He's had some issue with strikeout to walk. That's another reason why I liked this rate, because I believe it was in I want to say 50 or 60 at bats. So that was a pretty darn good ratio. It was it would have been equated to about a 10% walk rate if we were going by at bats. So that's strong. And less than the 30% strikeout rate. So you'll take that all day long if he's starting to figure some things out there.
Yeah, certainly. There's definitely a story here. He was drafted twice before he signed out of the 4th round in 2021. But a Canadian from Toronto for the California State University Northridge. How do you end up, I'm assuming scholarship, out there from Toronto? Like, what's the scouting like? He would be, that should be an interview we try to seek out here with Mr. Clark. So
there we go.
Either way, that's positive stuff with him. We'll move on to another Dodger here, Damon Keith, an outfielder, 263, 378, 553 line, 5 home runs, 6 stolen bases, 13 Ks, 13 walks, 26 Ks. That's a lot of stats. Keith, he's just doing the work.
18th round guy 2 years ago in the 2022 draft, or 3 years ago, 2021 draft. Holy crap. That's just been if he could stay on the stinking field, he fills up a stat line. It's just, that's been his issue, is staying. He's only got 50 games this year because of that. But 14 doubles, 10 home runs, 7 steals in the games that he's been on the field. So yeah, that's kind of what he is. Unfortunately, is this another freaking one that that the Dodgers got right? Their next Josh Outman, or
he does look like an all cats kind of contributor here for himself. Eddie was just quickly asking in the chat, and because we care about you, chat people, we want more of you to join in here. But he was saying, do we think Clase, who's the super outfielder, athletic, exciting guy that Dipoto was all over earlier this year, who he then traded away to Toronto, does he get run in Toronto? He needs speed like oxygen. I will just say I don't think so. I think that
unfortunately,
Loperfido getting the call made sense. He was on the Houston roster. They moved him over, and they might just let Clase go down to Buffalo and take it all in, and then he could 100% be competing next year. Again, unless there's an injury. And that changes that. Yeah,
I was really surprised that they didn't move one of Dalton Varsho or George Springer. We had the conversation about Springer, that it was going to take a certain kind of team to be in on him.
Trade in the offseason to make that, because you got to talk a lot of money. A lot of things are going to come together.
I think that's a really good point. I think he could definitely move this offseason depending on what the Blue Jays are doing. He's still batting leadoff every game, which to me is, I don't know that, but who the heck else are you going to bat leadoff?
Yeah,
in that lineup. That's the only issue.
I think they were doing Schneider for a bit when the OBP was there, but anyway, that's off topic for this. Yeah. We're talking AA guys, but we like just talking about all of them. So Oakland's got another one here. Cooper Bowman, second baseman, former Yankee, 377 average, 469, 736, 4 home runs, 7 stolen bases, and 1-to-1 K to walk at 9 apiece.
I do want to say, this is a South Dakota born boy. Born in Rapid City, South Dakota. So
okay. So that's a speed related comment, I guess, or
no.
All right, let's get to, we'll talk about a cheater
that's Sturgis this time of year. But anyway.
And this isn't a cheater as the individual. Yeah, this isn't an individual cheater. This is an organizational. Never forget Houston Astros. Joey Mancini, right-handed pitcher, Corpus Christi, 19 and a third innings pitched, .47 ERA, 1.14 WHIP, 20 strikeouts, and 8 walks. I'm guessing you just had that backwards, Ben. I can't imagine he had 20 walks and 8 strikeouts.
No,
So
yeah, it's opposite.
yeah.
I think I did that a couple of different times here. So
Yeah, just keeping me on my toes. You know, I mucked it up the first time, but I figured it out and pointed it out to everybody this time. But anyway, Houston has the skills and abilities as an organization to take guys from high A to double A and make the line look good. It's a matter of can they then move it up to the next level and keep going. So if it's a high K per 9, which that's not what we're seeing over the last month here with Mancini, what we're seeing is like dominant pitching. You know, the walks are a little higher than you want, but he's been able to take care of business. So perhaps he's doing the thing that once upon a time J.A. Happ did, which was you're good, but you just keep nibbling, which is why your inning count is not at 24 because you're trying to strike guys out. And when you're not, instead of having a really good K to 9, you end up walking them. And that might be what's happening here. A good pitcher trying to get trying to do video game numbers instead of playing to contact. But still, good
Where
line.
would you think Joey Mancini, where do you think he might have gone to college?
Soprano U?
Yeah.
In New Jersey?
Well, Boston College.
Hey,
when I saw that, I was like, that fits. But he was like a 15th round pick. And from what I saw, it looks like he has taken his curve and turned it into a legit weapon, which is something Houston does teach very well.
The Lance McCullers school. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I mean, they're the guys who really did that with Charlie Morton, too. They kind of turned that curve into a legit weapon, and now that's really all he uses at 40 years old. But let's see, Mancini in this year, 77 2/3 between high A and double A, 197 whip on the entire year, 78 strikeouts, 108 or 197 ERA, 108 whip, and 78 strikeouts in 77 2/3 innings. But what I will say is he didn't start a single game until he got to double A. These are all starts here. So he's kind of being stretched out into a starter role. Something to
take
keep
that
in
as
mind.
the compliment that it is to the organization's belief in their ability to maximize his value as a starter. Hopefully this isn't one of those like, let's just see what he can do and we'll boot him if he doesn't make the cut. On the positive side, of course, doing it on that. But okay, let's move on from him to somebody recently traded to Oakland. We got 2 guys. We got Barnett and Beers. And Barnett is coming over from KC, 22 innings pitched, all that, of course, with KC, 1.23 ERA, .95 whip, 25 Ks, 10 strikeouts. Very nice line. And Beers, also right-handed pitcher, 24 2/3 innings pitched, 1.82 ERA, .73 whip, 22 Ks, 2 walks. Wow, great trade-off. Not having the highest K to 9, but being elite with the walks.
6'4" Michigan boy from the University of Michigan. So I'm sure Govier is going to like us talking about a Wolverine.
And that's Beers. Of course, Barnett is a 6-foot righty from the University of Don't You Mind. He was drafted. Oh, Auburn. There we go. Knew it was a small school.
And Barnett is kind of your prototype number 4, number 3 starter, mid-rotation, inning eater type of starter. Nothing is really elite plus type of pitch, but he's average or better with everything. So just a good all-around 4-pitch mix. Beers is more of your sinker slider type, and that kind of shows up in his strikeouts. 107 innings this year, 94 strikeouts. But the thing that I don't like on his season profile is 16 home runs allowed in 107 innings.
Yikes, that's a lot of meatballs
for a sinker ball pitcher. I mean, that's what the the worry is. Like,
maybe he's curved that a little bit here. And the last month has been the beginning of the positive movement here. So we got one guy left, one arm left to talk about, and that is a KC guy who stayed in KC. So either Oakland didn't want him, or KC was not willing to give him up. Noah Cameron, a lefty playing in Northwest Arkansas, 15 2/3 innings pitched, 2.87 ERA, 1.09 WHIP. 23 Ks in the 15 2/3, friendly reminder, and only one walk, and he's now up in AAA. It makes sense that he's up in AAA. His year line for the year here, and this is how old are we? A 24-year-old who's now up in AAA for the first time. 3.63 ERA on the year, 74 1/3 innings pitched. My apologies, this is not counting AAA. Counting AAA, 81 innings on the year, 3.44 ERA, 97 punch outs. I like that. And only
really
25
solid
walks.
year. I mean, nothing that like, holy crap, but
WHIP's not ideal,
like,
1.33
nice
on the year, but he did dial it back down the last month before the promotion. So, solid. I'm going to quickly check him on Fantrax. I have a feeling.
And struck out
he's
10
available
in his AAA debut over 6 2/3 innings. You'll take that all day long. 6'3" lefty. I mean, and he's, like you said, he's another one of those guys. The Royals kind of had a few of those guys in their system, which is why Barnett was tradable. Another one of those guys with a lot of average-ish pitches and nothing elite. But coming from the left side, that's definitely a number 4 starter type.
Yeah, he's only 3% rostered on Fantrax, but in 4 of my 7 dynasty leagues, he is rostered. Like for the bigger ones, 3 30-team leagues and a 24. So depending on how deep your various leagues go, he may be rostered. I'm going to check and see in one league in particular. If it was last offseason he was picked up, I'm assuming it would have been. So he doesn't yet, I'm sure he does not yet have legitimate fantasy value here. He was drafted in this particular league in the 8th round, so plus 200 picks deep in 2023, so 2 drafts ago. So I think he might be an interesting target depending on how the rest of the time goes at AAA here.
I thought I would pop this up because Govier asked this question, and this one's kind of an easy answer, but I think he's mistaken on the Hall of Famers, although I'll have to look into that more. Larkin Barry Larkin is definitely the best player. Although I will say the 2 guys that I remember the most as Michigan players over my lifetime were Jim Abbott and Rich Hill. Rich Hill did not get a lot of play there. I can't remember where he ended up finishing his career.
Story of my life. Oh, sorry, baseball. You meant?
Oh, sad day.
Dude, spit on that thing.
That's right. You do have a sore shoulder, so yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wait. I guess I thought he didn't. Okay, I'm mistaken. I thought Rich Hill went somewhere else before he got drafted, but he apparently got drafted out of Michigan. But
I didn't know it was a university back when he was in college.
Yeah,
that's an age joke for everyone out there.
The thing that I'm not sure of, Larkin is probably the best player that in my entire lifetime that came from Michigan. I don't have any memories of him playing there. Charlie Gehringer is a Tiger legend, Hall of Famer, and played at the University of Michigan. And I want to say was like born and raised and like he's an all Michigan guy, born and raised, died in Michigan, that whole 9 yards. So, but
what about the greatest Yankee from Michigan? Do you know who that is?
Ooh, let's
Govier
see.
Saying, wow, good pull, Ben.
Yeah, on Gehringer, yeah.
Things,
but
we'd love to hear from our wives.
Okay.
So greatest Michigan player, or sorry, Michigander Greatest Yankee, who's also a Michigander. There you go.
Well,
Eddie got it.
I mean, I know where he's from, but I was trying to find other ones. I mean, you could say Jim Abbott. Didn't Jim Abbott throw a no-hitter as a Yankee?
Well, but that doesn't make him. You're going to put that above Jeter? You're going to put that above average career defense?
I'm just trying to be the
to
like
bring up
normal,
the counterpoint.
The normal internet.
But is
guy
Abbott
that tries
from
to
Michigan,
debase
or did he just go to Michigan?
That's a good question.
Because I mean, we've seen a kid from Toronto go to California tonight. Mr. Clark, we saw that happen. So,
yeah, I just remember those guys from the University of Michigan. But
we covered your AA guys. We're at an hour 45 in.
And I think you need a nap. So
as much as I'd love to just continue
that,
to
you got to ice
things
your
that don't
arm.
Matter.
And,
Yeah, I need to go ice my shoulder and tell my wife that I can't do what I was hoping tonight. Just kidding. I always could, right, guys? We're always good for it.
Can't do it.
But anyway, we covered some hot hitting AA guys. We'll have to sort out next week. I believe I may be going to the North Pole at a little place called Santa's Village. So I might not be on the show next week. I have to confirm that.
Wow, dude.
I know. So we might need a DH, or we'll have to call Govier back up from the broadcast booth or wherever. And I don't know, maybe you guys can do like an ode to fallen prospects episode. Something fun, something that's positive. I don't know. But either way, that'll be something to sort out. For Govier on the production side, Ben and myself, thank you all. Like, share, subscribe on the YouTubes, the Twitter X, and whatnot. This has been your Prospect Power Hour 46. Peace, love, hair, grease.